Okay, so today we are going to start identifying some common reef fish in Sodwana. I did get some requests in yesterday's lectures to include the scientific names. Okay, so I have done that for the families. Okay, we're not really going to go too much into detail in terms of genera and species and that kind of thing. We're mostly looking at families in this course. So I have included those scientific names for those people that did want them. So there are going to be 3 fish ID lectures that we do because there are just too many fish, and even though there's just too many fish in our oceans, okay, too many different species, so we're only really scratching the surface, okay, with the content that we're going to be looking at here. But I hope that it really encourages you to keep being hungry to learn. There's heaps of resources available for you guys, so definitely do take advantage of kind of building up your fish knowledge, I guess. So just a reminder, I did mention yesterday that I love this reef guide in particular when I'm IDing things that I see underwater. For all our ID lectures, I have noted the page numbers for this particular book, okay, for each family that we look at. So if you do have access to this book, just have a look in the top right-hand corner of each slide and you'll see the page number, okay? If not, reef guides are quite easy to use, and so I'm sure you'd be able to work out with whatever resource that you have, what kind of fish I'm looking at. So first off, we have our butterfly fish. These are also called Chaetodontidae. Okay, so these guys are characterized by a discoid body shape, okay? And like we mentioned yesterday, they have that laterally compressed body, which means they've been flattened kind of upright, okay? They've got what we call a concave nape, okay? So a concave nape means the head is kind of sloping like this, all right? And then they've got a small terminal mouth, okay? So we can see the mouth over here. Now, a terminal mouth means that the mouth is sitting, kind of in the front of the fish, okay? So it's like right level with what it's eating. So fish's mouth may sit kind of higher up on the forehead, okay, or a bit lower, like under the chin almost, okay, but these guys have a terminal mouth, which means it's kind of right in the front of its face. Butterfly fish often have what we call protruding snouts, okay, so that means that their mouth kind of sticks out a little bit, and this is ideal for eating coral polyps, okay? So they actually pick at individual coral polyps, kind of like a pair of tweezers, okay? So that's how they feed. They usually have truncate caudal fins. So remembering from yesterday, truncate caudal fin would be kind of a straighter tail, okay? So we can see on this example over here, it's got more of a straighter tail, and this one here as well. In terms of coloration, butterfly fish are usually quite brightly colored, okay? There's always some yellow on a butterfly fish, okay? They might have other colors like white and black, maybe a little bit of blue, but definitely always some yellow somewhere on the fish, okay? And they are often found in mating pairs. Butterfly fish use the reef for shelter and as a food source, and they will flit from place to place with no clear destination or direction. So when you're watching the fish swim, if it doesn't look like it, if it looks like it doesn't really know where it's going, it's probably a butterfly fish, okay? Another thing just to note that butterfly fish have in terms of markings is often they have the concealed eye, okay? So we can see there's a line that sits over the eye here, same in this example and same in this example here. And that actually, they use that to confuse their predators, okay? So they often have that eye that is concealed. The predator doesn't really know which end is the front or the back, okay? Same with these false eye spots. So some of our butterfly species have false eye spots, which you can see over here, all right? And it's the same, same kind of thing. So the predator will assume that this is the eye, and so that this is the front of the fish, okay? So the predator will try and attack from the back, okay? But obviously this is actually where the eye is, and so the butterfly fish sees the predator coming and is able to escape nice and easily. So here are some examples of butterfly fish, okay? So again, having a look at those key characteristics, okay, we can see that discoid body shape. We can see a lot of them have that kind of concealed eye. It's quite obvious in this species over here. We can see some of them have like a false eye spot. So over here, this one is sitting kind of lower down on this one. And we can see that kind of protruding snout on a lot of these, okay? Particularly this one, this species in particular is our long-nosed butterfly fish, okay? You can see why it's called the long-nosed butterfly fish. It's quite obvious. Okay, so in terms of the species that we do have here, these are some of the really common ones that we see in Sodwana. We have so many butterfly fish, though I couldn't fit them all on the slide, but these were some of the ones that I really like seeing, so that's why I included them. So this one here is our white-spotted butterfly fish. This one is our yellowhead butterfly fish. Okay, this is probably my favorite butterfly fish to see on our reefs in Sodwana. This one here is our half-moon butterfly fish, also called a raccoon butterfly fish. Here we've got the black pyramid butterfly fish, the long-nosed butterfly fish, and our masked coachman. Okay, so you'll see our coachman or bannerfish, all right, these guys, they are butterfly fish. And that's, not a lot of people know that, so there you go. All right, next we have our angelfish, also known as Pomacanthidae. These guys also have very laterally compressed bodies, okay, so they've also been flattened in an upright position, I guess. And again, they also have that small terminal mouth. Again, these guys are also quite brightly colored, and so they are often confused with butterfly fish. Sometimes people find it quite difficult to distinguish between angelfish and butterfly fish. Okay, so we have a few kind of cheats that we use. All right, so with our angelfish, okay, they have a spine on the gill cover. So if you have a look over here, you can see it quite well in this example. We have that little spine over there. Okay, same one in this example. You can see that spine over there. Okay. Our angelfish also always have some blue on them. Okay, so they might have yellow and black and white and those other butterfly fish coloration, but always there is going to be some blue. Okay. Now, the other thing with angelfish is that they are a little bit like heavier looking and a bit bigger than butterfly fish in general, okay? And they don't have as much of that sloping forehead, okay? They also swim in a bit of a slower, more definite way than butterfly fish do, so they seem to kind of actually know where they're going on the reef. Now, this species over here is our tiger angelfish. Okay, so this species is actually endemic to the area, so it kind of is found from Mozambique to Alawal Shoal and a bit out kind of towards Madagascar. But it is only found on deeper reefs, okay, and it was actually discovered by the author of the Reef Guide, Dennis King. He found it, or he described it as a new species, and yeah, we can actually find this species on Lettuce Reef in Sodwana, so it's a really special fish that we've got, which is pretty cool. So again, looking at our other species of angelfish, okay, there's quite a bit of variety, but you can still see those main characteristics, namely that spine. Okay, so this one over here is our 3-spot angelfish. Okay, you can see the spine sitting here. We've got our regal or royal angelfish. Okay, again, you can see that spine over here. Here we've got our semicircle angelfish. Okay, again, you can see that spine. And then we've got our old woman angelfish. So the spine is very, very small on these ones, so you can't really see it too well in the picture. But if you do see them up close, you can see them. Now, the cool thing about these guys is a lot of you, I'm sure a lot of you are divers, okay? So you've probably already kind of interacted with this species of angelfish already. But the old woman angelfish tends to kind of be attracted to divers' bubbles. They're quite a curious fish, and so often you'll be on a safety stop or that kind of thing, and you'll have these old woman angelfish coming at you and kind of nibbling at your bubbles. So they're quite fun to play with. Up here we have some of our smaller angelfish species. So this one is our dusky cherub, and then over here we've got our jumping bean or African pygmy angelfish. Okay, again, you can see those spines, all right? So even though they do look a bit small, you might confuse them with maybe a damselfish or something like that. Look out for that spine, okay, and you should be able to identify it as an angelfish. Now, you'll remember from yesterday's lecture that angelfish are one of our fish that actually change coloration, okay, as they mature. So, for example, here, this one over here is our juvenile emperor angelfish, okay, and this one over here is our juvenile semicircle angelfish. So you can see as a juvenile, he's got this coloration, and then as an adult, it turns into kind of this coloration. Okay, so sometimes we are lucky that we do see them in that transitioning phase. Okay, particularly on bikini, I've seen bikinis quite. Our bikini reef site tends to have quite a few of our juveniles and transitioning phase angelfish. So yeah, it's great to look out for them there. Now, Moorish idols are kind of special because they are actually the only species in this family, okay? So the family is Zanclidae, okay? And yeah, they are the only species in this family, so they're all on their own. Moorish idols are actually very closely related to surgeonfish. You can identify these guys by their deep body, so again, it's kind of a bit laterally compressed. They've got 2 broad black bands, okay, on the body, so you can see the one band over here and the other band over here. And then there's a bit of a white band in the middle of those, and then they've got this kind of overlaying yellow kind of section, all right. And then, of course, they've got this long white dorsal filament. Another key characteristic is the distinct black-edged yellow triangle on the snout. So it kind of looks like a bit of a triangle or almost a saddle shape as well. So that's quite a key characteristic for identifying these guys. So the Moorish idol feeds on invertebrates and algae. Okay, so they're a bit of a omnivore. Now, these guys are often confused with coachman or bannerfish. So in this example here, you can see the two up next to each other. Okay, so you can see they do have some similarities, and I guess if you did look at them quite quickly, you might struggle to identify which is which. But I'm going to help you kind of look for those key characteristics again. So having a look at our Moorish idol, again, having a look at that really distinct yellow saddle on the body, on the snout, okay, we can see on our coachman that is missing. All right, so butterfly fish does not have that yellow saddle. Also with the Moorish idol, we can see there's kind of this kind of watercolor looking yellow coloration on its body. Again, the butterfly fish does not have that. Okay, so moving on to our surgeonfish. So these are also called Acanthuridae. So surgeonfish are quite an oval-shaped fish, all right? They're kind of small to medium size. They don't get super big. They've got eyes that are quite high in their face, all right? And the mouth is quite small. They've got what we call a concave tail, so you can see the tail kind of flits in, kind of like a moon. The really distinguishing feature of surgeonfish is that they have that scalpel-like spine on both sides of the caudal fin, of the caudal peduncle, sorry. So you can see the spine over here, all right? And they use that for defense, okay? They use that to defend themselves. If they get a bit threatened, they'll flick their tail, and that pokes the spine out, and they'll deter their predators that way. Now, surgeonfish are really important on our reefs because they are grazers of algae. Okay, so they eat the algae that grows on the reef, and they're kind of like the lawnmowers, okay, or the cows of the reef. So they keep the grass nice and short and keep everything nice and healthy. Now, part of the surgeonfish family are our tangs and our unicorn fish. So tangs have enlarged dorsal and anal fins, and I'll show you an example of that on the next slide. And then, like our example over here, this is our unicorn fish, okay? And we can see quite easily why it is called a unicorn fish, all right? It's got that kind of protrusion or bump on the forehead that sometimes looks like a unicorn horn. The other cool thing about unicorn fish is that they actually have two spines on the caudal peduncle. So while our surgeonfish only have one spine, the unicorn fish has two spines, okay? And the other thing is that those spines on the unicorn fish, they stay out the whole time, okay? So with our surgeonfish, they can actually retract that spine, so the spine actually sits like flat or flush against the body, and the surgeonfish will only flick it out when it feels threatened, okay? The unicorn fish keep their defenses up the whole time. So having a look at some examples of the surgeonfish that we get in Sodwana, we've got our penciled surgeonfish over here, the blue-banded surgeonfish here. This is one of our tangs, okay? So this is our sailfin tang, and you can see that really enlarged dorsal and anal fins in this example. Here we've got our orange spine surgeonfish. Okay, here is our palette surgeonfish. You guys might recognize this as Dory from Finding Nemo, okay? Yes, this one is our palette surgeonfish. We've then got our powder blue surgeonfish over here, the lieutenant surgeonfish here, and our blue spine unicorn fish. So having a look, you'll see over here, this is a unicorn fish. This is our orange spine unicorn fish, but he doesn't have a really pronounced or really obvious protrusion on the head, okay? So that's why the best, I guess, characteristic you want to look at when working out whether it's a surgeonfish or a unicorn fish is actually looking at those spines. So remember, like I said, those spines, the unicorn fish will have two spines near the tail here, where the surgeonfish will only have one. So you can see in some of these examples, like this one here, our palette surgeonfish over here, and our powder blue surgeonfish, that spine isn't very obvious, okay? That's just because of the coloration of the fish. They kind of mask it, they kind of hide it away, but I can assure you they do have that spine, okay? Now, triggerfish, okay? Triggerfish are also known as Ballistidae, okay? So these guys have kind of oval-shaped bodies or diamond-shaped bodies, and they can get quite large. So the first dorsal spine on a triggerfish can actually be locked up into position. So in this example here, you can see this spine has been locked up into position, okay? They use that to defend themselves again, but they also use it to actually lock themselves into crevices and that kind of thing. So you can see in this example over here, we've got a red fang triggerfish that has darted into a reef hole. He's using that spine to kind of lock himself into that hole so that nothing can pull him out to eat him. Triggerfish have a really interesting way of swimming, and we actually call it ballistiform swimming. Okay, so taken from their family name Ballistidae, they have the ballistiform swimming mechanism, I guess. But basically, they undulate their dorsal and anal fins, okay? And that's generally how they swim. If they need to kind of get away really quickly, or kind of chase their friends or whatever, they will then use their tail just to get that little bit of extra speed. But for the most part, they just kind of undulate those dorsal and anal fins to swim around. So these guys have pretty impressive teeth, okay? They consume shellfish and crustaceans, so they eat things that have a hard shell. So their teeth are quite impressive, bit intimidating if, you know, they're coming at you. But yes, they do eat things that they need to crush open, okay? So that's why they've got those really strong, sharp teeth, okay? And some of you might have experienced it already, but triggerfish can actually be quite aggressive on the reef, all right? Particularly when they are defending their eggs and their territories, okay? So just flicking to our next slide here, this species in particular is quite a infamous species amongst divers, I guess. This is our Titan triggerfish, okay? He gets quite large. And he's the one that we tend to be, a little bit wary of, I guess, when we come across them on the reef. They are wild animals. They do, when they are defending their territory and that kind of thing, they are just, doing what they are meant to do. Okay, so it's not natural for us to be in their environment and that kind of thing. So do keep that in mind if you do see one kind of displaying territorial or aggressive behavior. It is just looking after itself. It's protecting its eggs, it's protecting its home, that kind of thing. So do just keep that in mind. Their territories tend to be in a cone shape. So from a really small kind of circle on the ground to kind of getting larger at the top. Okay, so if you do come across one of these, don't swim like over it if it's, kind of chasing you off or anything like that. It's best to actually swim closer to the ground and kind of make a wide kind of turn around it, if that makes sense. In terms of our other species that we have here, this is our red fang triggerfish, another one that's quite common, another one that can be quite aggressive. I know a couple divers who have little bite marks on their fins from these guys kind of defending themselves, so they can be a bit funny to watch. Like I said earlier, this is our Titan triggerfish. Then, of course, we have the orange striped triggerfish, the Picasso triggerfish, and our lovely clown triggerfish. And in this example, you can really see those sharp teeth that they use to crush crustaceans and shellfish. So next up, we have our damselfish, or Pomacentridae. So these are kind of oval or disc-shaped small fish with compressed bodies and small, I guess not really that small, terminal mouths though. So again, you can see that mouth sitting at the end, at the front of the body. Now, these guys have quite a huge variation in the shape of the caudal fin. Okay, so for this instance, you probably wouldn't want to look at the shape of the caudal fin just because there is so much variation. There's not really a typical damselfish tail shape, okay? There's also a lot of variation in color, okay, in terms of different species and that kind of thing. Again, this is another fish that can be quite territorial, and they're quite aggressive, again, when they are defending their territories and eggs. They're just a lot smaller than the triggerfish, so we don't tend to be scared of these guys like we might be with the triggerfish. And yeah, anemone fish are actually included in this group. So the anemone fish are actually like a little subfamily of the damselfish, so they are closely related. So having a look at some of the species that we get in Sodwana, this one is called our blue peat, okay, also known as the cerulean damselfish. These guys are quite common, okay? These are dominoes or three-spot damselfish. Now, these guys aren't necessarily an anemone fish, but they, as juveniles, they do actually live in the anemones as well. So you might have seen these kind of darker fish with little white spots on them hanging around in the anemones. We've got our two-bar humbug over here, okay? These guys, you often find them hiding in amongst acropora corals and that kind of thing, so finger corals and plate corals with little projections of them. They like to kind of hide in amongst that. Here we have our jewel damselfish, okay, and then our nose stripe anemone fish, our sergeant major, and our two-bar anemone fish. Now, our sergeant majors, there's about 6 species in that genus, okay? They're quite similar looking, okay? They've all got those kind of stripes down the, or bands, sorry, down the body, that kind of thing. There might be a bit of yellow, there might not be that yellow marking. And again, the tail shape is usually, that forked kind of tail for this genus. But yeah, sometimes it's a little bit rounded and that kind of thing. But yeah, just thought I'd let you guys know that there are more species in that genus and they look all quite similar. But yeah. So yeah, damselfish. I quite enjoy watching anemone fish. You can often see the anemone fish eggs that they lay next to the anemones. They like to lay their eggs on kind of a hard surface near the anemone that the anemone tentacles like waves over it, so that the eggs are protected from any predators or that kind of thing. So they're quite fun to try find. I enjoy looking for them. Our fusiliers or Cesionidae, these are our slender, streamlined bodied fish. They've got symmetrical, deeply forked caudal fins, which we can see over here, okay? There's a bit of a rule in the fish world that the deeper the fork, the faster the swimmer, okay? So you can see these guys are built for speed in terms of their tail shape, okay? They often form very large shoals, okay, made up of lots of different species. So you might have lots of different species of fusiliers forming one big group, okay? And yeah, they kind of hang a bit higher up in the water column. They don't spend a lot of time very close to the reef because their food is kind of closer to the surface. We can often actually see fusiliers from the boats, so you'll be driving along and often Georgie is the one that finds them and he gets all excited. George is one of our skippers. If you guys haven't met him yet, he's quite a character and we all love him. And we miss him. I miss him. Yeah, so these are some of our examples here, okay? Yeah, just we can see those kind of deep forked tails. I like to kind of describe the fusiliers as if a child was going to draw a fish, this is, that classic fish shape, okay? So if it's a fish that is, that classic fish shape, all right, it's probably a fusilier. So our snappers, okay, these are also known as Lutjanidae, okay? These are kind of medium-sized fish. They can get quite large as well. They've got kind of an oblong body and they've got that triangular head. So you can see it's quite an obvious triangle of the head, okay? They've also got a shallow notched caudal fin. All right, so you can see it's not a very forked tail, it's just kind of a very shallow fork, if that makes sense. Their eyes are also set fairly low on the head, so you can see the eyes are quite near to the mouth, okay? The eyes are set quite low on the face. Now, snappers can be solitary, so some species prefer to do life on their own, okay? Other species like to form quite, medium-sized to even large groups. So, one of our most common examples would be this red snapper over here. They tend to be more solitary, okay, but then we've got our blue-banded snappers at the bottom here, and they tend to form those quite large groups. We often have other species of fish kind of hanging around these guys as well, and we'll talk about them in a little bit as well. Snappers tend to be a bit closer to the reef than fusiliers are, so sometimes it's a bit hard to tell the difference between fusiliers and snappers. Again, they're yellow, they're fish, there's a lot of them, so it's a bit overwhelming sometimes. But yeah, you want to have a look at that tail shape, okay, to help you identify between your big schools of snappers and your big schools of fusiliers. So looking at some of the species we get, this one over here is actually a juvenile. Okay, so this is our juvenile black beauty snapper. So as a juvenile, they've got these really distinct colorations. I always get really excited when I see the juveniles of this. You don't see them too often. They tend to be a little bit shy. They kind of hide away a bit. So when you do see them, it's quite exciting. As they grow up, they kind of lose this beautiful black and white markings, and they just kind of go this really dull grey colour. So they're a lot more exciting to see when they are juveniles. Over here we've got our speckled snapper. Over here we've got our big school of humpback snapper. Okay, these are quite common on our reefs. Yeah, you kind of find them all over the show. And then, of course, our blue-banded snappers, which are also quite common. Now, our blue-banded snappers and our humpback snappers, they tend to be found, in areas where there's a bit of food in the water. Okay, these guys like to kind of feed on, things in the water column, I guess. But they're quite fun to join the school. Okay, so we don't ever hold our breath while we are scuba diving. Obviously, that's quite unsafe. We don't want to encourage that. But if you take really slow breaths, so breathing in nice and deeply, really, really slow, and just kind of minimizing your bubbles, you can actually kind of swim into their school nice and slowly and join them, and that's quite a beautiful experience. So if you haven't tried that, definitely when you do get to dive again, I do recommend trying that out. It's quite fun. They kind of close in around you, and you feel like you're one with the fishes, and it's just great. So our next one are our jacks or trevallies or kingfish, whatever you want to call them. They're all in the Corangidae family. Okay, so these guys, medium to large, laterally compressed fusiform fish. Okay, so fusiform simply means built for speed. Okay, it's nice and streamlined. Everything is, ready to swim fast. Okay. So they've got quite a deeply sloping head. They've got big eyes, okay? They've got big eyes because they're more of a open water hunter, okay? So they want to be able to see really well. The, main distinguishing characteristic of our jacks, trevallies, and kingfish, that kind of thing, is that deeply forked tail. So you can see that they are really built for speed. But then as an added strengthening thing, I guess, that they have is that they've got this reinforced caudal peduncle. Okay, so the caudal peduncle is this little bit that actually attaches the tail to the body. Okay, that's a simple way of putting it. But yeah, these guys, they've got that reinforced caudal peduncle. So they've got what we call subdermal plates or scutes that are kind of embedded in the muscle there, or along the spine, and yeah, that kind of just gives it a bit more strength, a bit more flexibility, rigidity, all of those good things. So they are definitely built for speed. And again, we can see by their coloration, as they are quite silvery, not a whole lot of bright colors, that kind of thing. They want to blend in with that open water environment that they spend most of their time in and hunting in. So looking at some of our species examples, we've got our bluefin kingfish, which is probably one of our most common ones that I see, at least. We've got our, I think this one is the pompano. I've just had a bit of a mental block. This one here is our queenfish. All right. Then we've got our juvenile golden trevallies over here, so you can see all of these little juvenile golden kingfish hanging around this manta ray, looking for our displaying that piloting behavior that we spoke about when we were talking about symbiotic relationships. Okay, and then this one up here I think is our amberjack. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, now that we've gone through some of the fish families, we're going to do a bit of a practice quiz, I guess, before you do your real quiz. So your real quiz, the quiz that you're going to do online later, it's all identification. Okay, so it's going to be a picture, and you have to tell us what that picture is of. Okay, so if you can, I would recommend kind of reading up and kind of going through the pictures that I've showed you. Have a look at some other species of the fish, that the families that I've given you today, and then attempt the quiz. It'll be a lot more helpful if you kind of have a bit more, I guess, insight into what those fish are. Okay. So before we do that though, let's just do a bit of a practice here. So we can see here, we've got these two little fish. So we've got one over here, and we can see that they're sitting in an anemone. Okay, so it's very likely that they are a damselfish. Okay, because remember, anemone fish are part of the damselfish family. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. We're just trying to identify families. All right, so this fish over here, we can see he's laterally compressed. We can see that really long, beautiful thread fin. And, okay, so we can see that yellow saddle. All right, so going back to our little encyclopedia in our minds, we know that this is a Moorish idol because it's got that saddle shape on its snout. Comparing that with this one, okay, so this one we can see he's also got that thread fin, but we're not seeing that kind of yellow saddle on the face, so we're going to say that that is a butterfly fish. Okay, so not a Moorish idol, this one is a butterfly fish. All right, this one, most divers do know this one, okay, we tend to be a bit wary of this one. We know that this is one of our more territorial fish, so they will aggressively defend their territories, that kind of thing. Having a look at its characteristics, so its physical characteristics, we can see it's kind of got that diamond-shaped, or I guess diamond-shaped body. Okay, so we can see it like that. And we can see that it swims with its dorsal and anal fins, okay, in an undulating motion. All right. What you can't see over here is the little spine. Okay, so that was probably something I should have mentioned earlier. I apologize. So triggerfish, their spine can be locked up, but for the most part, it lays flat against the body. Okay, so that spine is currently laying flat. All right, he is not feeling threatened or anything like that right now, so he's got his spine laying flat. All right, if he did feel threatened, he would flick that spine up and it would lock into position. Okay, so this one is a triggerfish. So this fish, we can see he's got that really deeply forked tail. Okay, we can see his friend over here has that deeply forked tail as well. And we can see that reinforced caudal peduncle. Okay, so we can see that line here that shows that he's got that reinforced caudal peduncle. Also, the big eyes, the kind of sloping head. So if you guessed jack, trevally, kingfish, anything like that, you got it. Okay, this one is yellow. It's got a sloping head, okay? But we see, if we have a look on the gill cover here, it's got a spine. So it wouldn't be a butterfly fish, even though it is predominantly yellow. We're actually going to identify this as an angelfish because we can see that spine over there. So this one is, it's kind of an oval-shaped fish. The mouth is kind of towards the front of the body, so it's got a terminal mouth as well. And we can see very, very, like if we look really, really closely, we can see a spine over here on the caudal peduncle, okay? So if you guessed surgeonfish, you are correct. All right, this one, it's kind of a smaller fish, okay? It's oval shaped. It's got that kind of terminal mouth again. Forked tail, but remember this family has very variable, is quite variable in its caudal fin shape, okay? So if you guessed damselfish, you are correct. Here we've got a big school of fish, okay? We can see they've got a shallow notched tail there. They've got quite a sloping head. It's kind of in a triangle shape, okay? So if you guessed snapper, you are correct. This one is one of my favorite ones to see, remember? So we can see he's got that kind of discoid body shape, okay? They've got that really sloping forehead, okay? And the protruding snout, all right? And I don't see any spines on the gill cover here. So if you guessed butterfly fish, you are correct. Okay, this one. So again, we can, if we look really, really closely, we can see that spine over here, okay? But when it is the coloration like this, it's quite easy to identify it, okay? So this one is an angelfish, all right? And this is actually one that I saw, I think it was on Bikini. It might have been on another reef, but I think it was Bikini. But this is one of those ones that is busy transitioning, okay? So you can see those concentric rings of the juvenile coloration, but then you can start to see that adult coloration coming through as well. So these kind of horizontal stripes coming through as well. So they're quite unique to see. All right, so this is another one of our fish that like to be in schools, okay? So big group of fish. Having a look at its shape, it's kind of your classic fish shape, okay? And it's got that deeply forked tail. So if you guessed Fusilier, you got it. Well done. All right, this one, we can see he's got that oval shape again. I'm seeing two spines here. Okay, so we've got those two spines on the caudal fin, and they are not laying flat against the body. Okay, so they are extended the whole time. All right, there's a tiny bit of a bump here that you might be able to see, but that's not necessarily the distinguishing factor, okay? We always want to have a look at our spines over here to tell us that that is a surgeonfish, okay? And if you want to go a little bit more specific, this one would be a unicorn fish. But if you guessed surgeonfish as the family, that is correct. Again, looking at this one, so this one also looks like he's got that kind of classic fish shape. Again, the deeply forked tail over here. All right, so if you guessed Fusilier, you are correct. This one, okay, having a look, it's again a big school of fish, all right, but it seems to have more of a triangular head. So if you have a look, it's got more of a triangular face, and we can see that that caudal fin isn't deeply forked. Okay, so it's just a shallow notch in the caudal fin. So if you guessed snapper, you are correct. This one, it looks like it's a fast fish, hey? So this one, we can see it's got that really deeply forked tail, and you probably can't see it too well on this picture actually, but it will have those reinforced caudal peduncle with those subdermal plates or scutes, okay? And then, yeah, that kind of fusiform fish shape. So if you guessed jack, trevally, kingfish, anything like that, you are correct. Okay, so I'm going to put my camera back on. Hello again. All right, so we've got some time for some questions now. So I'm having a look at the chat, and I'm just going to kind of look through some of the questions and try to answer some of your questions. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Okay, so we've got a question here. Do you have any idea what causes or why the lieutenant surgeonfish changes color? And does it change back and forth, or is the change terminal? So I actually haven't seen the lieutenant surgeonfish change color, but I know other fish do. So thinking of things like our potato bass, okay, potato bass sometimes, depending on their mood, depending on their territorial kind of levels, that kind of thing, they can either show themselves as being quite dark, or they'll go to quite a light coloration with where you can really obviously see those kind of spots that, or big spots that they've got over their body. So maybe it's a mood thing, maybe it's a territorial thing, I'm not sure. Any ideas on the territorial behavior of triggerfish? Do they swim differently so that we can identify them before getting attacked or bitten? I don't know, I guess just keep an eye on them. I tend to be quite wary that if I'm leading a dive or that kind of thing, if I see them coming, like if I see one in the section of reef that I want to go to, I actually choose not to go there. Okay, so like I said, they are territorial, so they kind of stay in their territory. They don't really move too far out of their territory as far as I know. So yeah, you'd want to kind of be aware of where they are and kind of keep your distance. That's my best advice there, really. Okay, so we have a question here. You said angelfish always have some blue in them, but the old woman angel doesn't look like it has any blue. Okay, as juveniles, they do have that blue. Okay, so maybe I guess that's kind of how I got around that. Yes, as adults, they don't really have that blue. They're more of that gray color. So again, you would go and have a look at that shape of the body. Okay, they've got that really classic angelfish shape. Yeah. Has there been cases where triggerfish have attacked divers with the spine? Not that I know of. I think, yeah, I haven't heard of any divers being attacked by the triggerfish with their spines. I know of someone who, was doing research on triggerfish, and so he was collecting triggerfish to take samples and that kind of thing, and when he picked it up, it sliced his hand. Yes, we are talking about triggerfish. I'm actually thinking of a surgeonfish, so I confused myself there. Sorry. But yes, again, same thing with surgeonfish. I don't know of divers being attacked by surgeonfish or triggerfish with their spines. But yes, I know of someone who was collecting them for research and that kind of thing, and did get injured by one. Yeah, triggerfish do take advantage of those strong teeth they have, and they do like to use them. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, I guess just a reminder now that we've kind of reached the end of our chat here. Just a reminder of the quizzes. Okay, so the quizzes will be posted, and then please do check the link each day. Yes, we want to enforce social distancing with our triggerfish. But yeah, I guess with the triggerfish, it is important to note, please don't be like afraid of them or anything like that, okay? Just be aware, okay? They are natural, they are wild animals. We are in their natural environment, okay? We don't want to, disrupt their behaviors or anything like that by purposefully antagonizing them or anything like that, okay? We really do want to just keep our distance, okay? As divers, we want to be passively observing the aquatic environment. We want to passively observe things, okay? There's that saying where the best way to observe a fish is to be a fish, okay? So we're going to just, we want to be passively observing. We don't want to have our, presence on the reef to have any negative impacts or anything like that. So do keep your distance. It is important to keep your distance with that kind of thing. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Have fun doing the quiz. Something I forgot to mention earlier. We had a lot of comments asking about how, like, when you submit the quiz, and do you need to submit the assignment or click done on the assignment? Don't worry about that stuff, okay? We do, as soon as you finish the quiz and you click done or submit or whatever at the bottom, we automatically get your marks. So if you can see your marks, we can see it. So we know you've done it. Okay, so you don't have to click done on any assignment sections or anything like that. As long as you've done the quiz, we can see that you've done it. So don't stress. Yeah, I feel like most divers have some story to tell about triggerfish and those fun interactions underwater. Tune in tomorrow for another fish ID lecture. Okay, so today we were kind of looking at the really colorful reef fish and the kind of, common reef fish. All right, again, tomorrow still looking at common reef fish, but a bit different shapes and that kind of thing that we'll be looking at tomorrow.